Well, hi there, guys. It's Corinna from sharedlegacyfarms.com and from mydigitalfarmer.com. Hope you guys are doing great. It is a Tuesday, October 23rd, when I am initially making this recording. And today, I'm going to be sharing with you the results of my early bird CSA registration signup that just finished this past week. And I'm going to talk you through this strategy for how I did it. Now, I was a little reluctant to share this with you a few weeks ago when it was running because I just wasn't sure it was going to work. I had some pretty dramatic results last season with this strategy, but I hadn't, had repeat success. I hadn't tried it again. And so before I kind of taught it in a little more detail, I wanted to make sure that it worked again. And so I'm happy to report that it has. And I'm really excited today to kind of walk you through that. This is going to be a detailed training. If you have an opportunity to pull out your notebook or your notepad, you can write down some notes because I am going to get real strategy practical with you, which is what I love to do. I want to help you guys mimic some of this success and give it a whirl yourself. So this is the end of October. This is normally the time, at least for us, when we do early bird campaigns. Some of you are doing CSA all year long, and so you're going to have a little bit of a different dilemma than I do because you may be having a constant battle of trying to get people to renew depending on when they're signed up, for which seasons of the year they're signed up. We only have one 18-week season, and so this particular method works really well for us. Now, the way that I used to do early bird campaigns before I learned about online digital marketing strategies or marketing strategies, period, was I would kind of about 4 weeks before the end of the season, I would start talking about it in a newsletter article. And I would tell them, hey, here are going to be the new prices. This is when you can start signing up. And then I just kind of had an open sign up for like 3 or 4 months. I would just keep it open until like January 1st. And I would bring it up every week in my newsletter in those last 4 weeks of the season. But I didn't really push it hardcore after the first 2 weeks. I just kind of reminded them in an email, hey, don't forget, here's what's going to be in your box. Here's a farm event coming up. Don't forget, you can also still sign up early bird at a discount. But that was kind of how I did my early bird signups. And I would usually get about 30 to 35% of my people renew by the end of the season. And that meant that for several months going into the winter, I was like this nail-biting freak, right? I was just so worried, like 35%, that's a lot of people that I have to make up. And in my mind, I knew that many of them would eventually join, but a lot of them wouldn't decide until, March or April or May. And that meant that for 4 months, I'm just worrying, what if they don't? Do I have to replace them? That's a lot of stress to carry. And I was just, sick of it. And so a few years ago when I started studying digital marketing and I heard about this concept of the launch and how to build offers and how to get people to sign up in a deadline, I really paid attention. And I said, I wonder if this strategy could work for what we do. And that's when I decided that I would experiment with it and I would try it out. So I did, and I had some really, really good results last season as well. This particular season, so I began kind of the hype emails, what I call the pre-launch phase. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But I began that process on October 3rd, and I took 4 days to kind of hype them up, get them excited, let them know what was coming, tease out the offer. But they couldn't sign up during those 4 days. And then on October 7th, which was a Sunday, I opened up the store and made the offer available to buy. And I only had it open for 14 days until October 20th, and then the offer and the discount disappeared. So my cart just closed on Saturday, and I am now kind of sharing with you the results of that. So I have roughly a 400 member CSA. It's a little bit, we always let some extra people in on the wait list and through our sampler shares after that, after like June 15th, June 30th. But we try to sell 400 shares. And By the end of October 20th, I have now 295 of those 400 sold. That's in 14 days. So I'm only selling this to my current membership. So if you do the math, that's a 74% member retention in 14 days. And I do expect that number to go up because I always have people that I still retain that just don't decide to sign up again until January or November, I even had 2 dribble in yesterday. So there's that number is going to go up, but that is an incredible number for us. And it puts us into a really great strategic position now as a farm because we can go into the winter months not stressed out. I don't really have to sit there and create this elaborate marketing scheme to try and get people to sign up because I have the majority of them in, and I know that I'll be able to make up the difference without really working very hard before June 1st. So one of our members in this group, Jen Valberg, asked me a really great question last night. She said, hey, I would be really interested in knowing how did those signups come in those 14 days? How did it break down? And so I did actually go and look that up because I wanted to have some strong numbers. I had sort of a general idea. But so in a 14-day launch, which is what I did, definitely the majority of my signups happened on day 1. And so I grossed $154,745 in 14 days. And of that, on October 7th, which was the first day I opened, $112,984 came in on the first day. So that's 73% of my sales were made on day 1. And I think there's a very good reason for why that happened. And I'm going to walk you through how I craft the strategy to create that frenzy of buying. And then the next highest was my second day, was 9% of my income came in on October 8th, and that was $14,662. After that point, it really dropped off. It was every day, it was around $2,000 to $3,000 was sort of the average until the last day. The last day I had a little bit more, not a ton, but it was a 4,500. So it was a little bit of a spike, not really. But that does actually follow the trends in the online marketing space, where the majority of the sales occurs in the first 2 days. And then there is a spike usually on the last day when the deadline is closing and people are getting emails that are saying, hey, last chance. And then people feel like their back's against the wall and they make their decision. So I wanted to just kind of share that with you because it was asked and I thought it was a good question. So 73% of the income coming in on the first day. This is actually a funny story. I actually crashed the server. My store went down for the first 20 minutes because everyone was trying to buy in the first 20 minutes. So that kind of freaked me out. I had to contact my website host server and just had to reach out to the people who were emailing me saying it's not working, and I just had to say come back in 20 minutes. But and then it was fine. But it was something. So in 2017, which was last year, I had really similar results. This is actually what got us kind of noticed on the national stage and what got us onto the Farmer to Farmer podcast with Chris Blanchard. So if you want to listen to that podcast, you can go to, I think it's episode 145 of the Farmer to Farmer podcast. And a shout out to Chris out there because I really love you. You're really awesome. Thank you for giving us that opportunity to get our message out. And after a 3-week run, so that was in October of 2017, I did a launch that was 3 weeks, not 2 weeks. And I had a 77% retention rate by the end of October. So it was probably very similar. I think it was 73% is what I had after those first 21 days. But then by the time I was done with the end of the month, people had come into 77. And then after, what's going to happen next is I've just closed my early bird registration for current members, but I'm actually going to open it again on Wednesday. That's tomorrow. I'm going to open up the store again, and I'm doing a pitch, a launch, a 7-day launch to my email leads list. So I have about 300 people on this list. I know they're not all going to buy, but it is a pretty substantial list. These are people who have downloaded my lead magnet, some kind of a CSA lead magnet. I've also filtered out all the people who are farmers That email pitch is going to go out to those people. And I'm hoping to fill in the gaps and try to get a little bit closer to full by the end of October. I did this very same strategy last year and had a launch to my email list, my wait list for a week, and I filled us up to 91% full in 7 days. So I'm kind of excited. I'll be sharing those results next week in this training to let you know specifically how that particular launch works. So how did I do it? How does this work? So I wanted to kind of walk you through the steps. This is what I literally did as I was planning this all out. And I'm going to walk you through it step by step. And again, I want to warn you, this is going to be a detailed training. So get out your notebook and take notes. This is not going to be a training that's only 30 minutes today. This is a really good stuff. So I hope that you will find this really actionable and helpful. So step one for me is to define my target audience. And the reason I say that is because I kind of have two different audiences that I send my launch out to. So in the early bird campaign, I was really talking to my CSA members, right? People who have been with me for at least one season. In some cases, people have been with me up to 9 years. And so I speak very differently to them as I pitch to them over, during that period of time than I would to the people I'm going to launch to starting tomorrow. Okay. So depending on who your audience is, if you're already talking to people who know your system, who know your product, your emails are going to be different. Your posts in your Facebook group are going to be different. The way you use words is going to be different because they already know what they're getting. You're not going to have to go into such great detail. And they're also going to know what they really love and what they might miss out on. So you can really kind of play on some of that fear of missing out piece that we're going to go into in detail here in a second. So defining your target audience, I kind of ask myself, okay, who am I talking to? And I always keep that front and center. So for the last 2 weeks, I was really thinking about, okay, don't get too in the weeds, Corinna. This is your CSA members. They already know your product. You don't have to make these emails super long. But now that I'm shifting my focus over to my CSA leads list, people who have not ever had a box, I have to be more careful about what I say and how I say it. I have to be more thorough. And the things that I give away for free, the videos that I show inside these emails to move them along the sales cycle are different ones because they need to be orienteered into how CSA works. They're going to have questions that my current members don't have because they already know how it works. So I just ask, okay, who is my target audience? And my target audience is never a cold audience. I also wanted to bring that up. So in the case of my CSA members, they've been doing this for a while. Okay, I don't have to warm them up. And even in the case of my CSA leads list, these are people who have gotten onto my list. And because I have sent an email out to them every week of the year, they know who I am. They're not opening all of them. I think my open rate is like 55% on average of my emails, but they know who I am and they know that I give them value. And so they are a warm audience. I do not ever try to pitch my CSA to a cold audience. And when I create my words and my posts for my Facebook business page, I am not trying to reach the person who's seeing me for the first time. I'm just not. Like, I know there are going to be people who see that. Maybe a few of them will buy. But the majority of people that I'm trying to reach, even on my Facebook business page, are people that have been watching me, who've been watching my videos for the last year, who know who I am, who maybe downloaded some stuff. That's who I'm talking to, okay? That's important to know. Okay, step 2, after you know who you're speaking to, is to define your offer. Define the offer. You guys, the offer is so important in marketing. In fact, if your marketing isn't working, that's one of the things I always tell people to troubleshoot first. Like, go check your offer. Is your offer actually a good offer? So your offer needs to be dictated by your audience. So I had a different offer for my CSA members than I do for my new early birds, or for my new, the people that are going to be on my CSA leads list that are brand new to my system, the one that I'm starting tomorrow. The offer is different. The price is different. The bonuses are different. Everything about the offer is phrased differently. So this again is why you need to be clear on who your target audience is. Now, what are some of the things that go into my offer? These are some of the things you need to think about. I'm not going to go into detail on this part because I did a really awesome video training, which you can find in the archives of this group. I think it's called Building an Irresistible Offer. So just do a search in the search bar for offer, and that video will come up. Or just go into on desktop view, you can go into the left side column of this Facebook group page and click on videos, and all our past video trainings are going to show up there. And just look for the one that says that's teaching about how to build an offer. I do a deep dive in what are the things you have to think about when you're creating an offer. So features and benefits. So I will sit down and map this out on a piece of paper. I really think through, okay, what are the features of my offer? What are the things they're going to get? And not just I'm going to give them a box of vegetables every week. So what? I try to answer the question, I'm going to give you a box of vegetables so that, and then I fill in the blank. How does that transform them? How does that give them the transformation they're looking for? What are they going to get out of that? So I'll kind of create bullet points about these are the things you're going to get, and these are the benefits that come to you as a result of getting this element of my offer. I sit down and think through pricing. So are they going to get a discount? Does the discount go away? Is there maybe a discount that's an extra discount if they buy on the first day, and then that slightly goes up on the second day? And you can play around with pricing. Share types. So I'll really get clear about what are all the other things, the other upsells that I want to try and offer to them. And this is also an important piece, defining a bonus. Now, I have found that the bonus is really what helps drive sales. So a bonus is something that's going to sweeten the deal, that's going to make them want to buy now, because it's something you can take away at the end of the early bird campaign period, and it doesn't come back again. And then their fear of missing out on that bonus is what drives the sale. So if you can know your audience well enough to know what is going to be valuable to them that you can tack on, that's super helpful. Last season, I created a PDF of a compilation of all the recipes that had been shared in our private Facebook group by our members during that season. And it was 70 pages. But they loved it. They absolutely loved it. And they were crazy about that bonus. I got a ton of feedback about how they couldn't wait to get their hands on that. So it took me a week afterwards to put that all together. And I had my community manager helping me with that. But that was otherwise no cost. I didn't have to pay for that. But there are lots of ideas for what you can do for a bonus. And I did another really great video training on creating an irresistible bonus. So you can look that one up as well in our video archives. I think that's actually been one of our members' favorite videos. They've said that they've gotten a ton of ideas from that. I give you a lot of specific examples of things that farmers have used for bonuses. But this is a really, really important piece of the offer. And if you don't have a bonus, I don't think you get the same results. This year, I did not do the same bonus for my members because I knew that I just knew that it wasn't going to have the same appeal. So we did a top 30, it's going to end up being the top 30 freezer meals PDF. And so these are things that they can use for next season to be storing away the produce from their boxes and freezing them away. So we have a lot of people that are excited about that one too. Okay, another element that needs to be in your offer is scarcity. You need to find a way to create scarcity. This is probably the reason why I had 73% of my sales come in on the first day, because I identified something that everybody wanted that was going to sell out, and I pointed it out and I agitated that fear. So in our case, our egg share is really, really popular, and we only have 100 of them. And I have 400 people in my CSA, and a lot of them want to get their hands on this egg share. And so I just talk about how I've only got 100, and the first 100 people in get the egg share. So that is why I had my server crash the first half hour, because all of those people who wanted eggs were literally waiting by their computers at 8 a.m. with their little mouse or their phone ready to plug in because they wanted that egg share. So if you can identify something within your product suite or within your offer that is scarce, that you don't have enough of for everyone, and that everybody wants, that will get people to their computers to sign up. Another idea is that you could just lower the number of something that, even lower the number of your shares. You could just decide that you're going to do that. All right, another element to a great offer is just creating urgency. So this is a huge mistake that I see, that I used to make and that I see farmers making today, is that they just have an open-ended sign-up period. There's no deadline. You're not giving a reason for people to sign up now. If you don't have a deadline, People don't have their backs against the wall and there's no reason for them to sign up now. So you have to tell them this is when the offer goes away. And more importantly, you have to stick to it. Every year I have people reach out to me after the deadline passes and say, can I get that discount? Can I get that bonus? I know I'm a couple days late. And you know what I say? I say no. I know you guys are thinking I'm heartless right now, but I word it nicely. But I'm like, sorry, that was a special offer, and I hold my ground. So this is why it's important to have an irresistible bonus. This is why things like discounts work really well too, because if your offer is a really good offer and then you can say it's going away on this day, then people will sign up because they have to. All right. I also want to just reference, before I move on, the 4 reasons people buy. And this was a video training that I've also done. It's in the archives, so look for that. The 4 reasons people buy. Another great training which kind of ties into how you craft this offer. So the scarcity and fear of missing out are one of the 4 reasons that people actually decide to buy. So if you don't have that element in your offer in some way, it does make a difference. All right, so I definitely recommend that video if you're new to the group and you haven't seen it yet. Okay, so here was my offer to my early bird members last week. I talked about you get a box of vegetables. I talked about the certified organic seal. I actually put that into my offer. Now that might seem weird, like, well, that's not something that I can touch, but that is a really big key value-driven benefit to my offer. And so remember I said, don't just talk about the features, talk about the benefits. So I mentioned some of my credentials in my offer. It's like, you're not just getting my box, but you're also getting my organic certification, that peace of mind that comes with knowing that we have that organic seal. I mentioned things, some of the bonus, well, it wasn't a bonus, some of the features. We get a Facebook group membership. So we have a really awesome Facebook group. I actually have a course that I teach on how to build a really awesome Facebook group for your CSA. But that Facebook group is part of membership. And then I also have the membership inside my online academy, which I've talked about here before, slfarms.teachable.com. But it's a really great place where all my members can then come and learn how to use their food. There's a mini course in there for how to succeed at CSA. It takes them an hour to complete. There's the Veggie U, which has tutorials for all of their vegetables, video tutorials, ebooks for all their vegetables, exit strategy videos, cheat sheets for how to make a formula for a perfect chili, perfect pesto, sheet pan meal, and so forth, freezer meal ideas, a canning club, videos for how to can. I mean, it's all this content that I've created over the last 2 years is inside that academy. And so that is now part of the offer. And this is something that I sell to the public, to the outside world for $65 a year right now. And so I can tell them, hey, this is yours for free. And that suddenly elevates the price and the value of the offer for them. All right, so that's all spelled out. And I don't just say, oh, you get access to the academy. I remind them the academy is valuable and I have people who spend money to get in this and you're getting it for free. Okay, so that just makes them feel good about their decision. Okay, I also, part of my offer was that they got a discount. They got this bonus, the top 30 freezer meals PDF. In my offer, I mentioned the eggs and the scarcity of how there were only 100. There were only 14 days to sign up. And I kept bringing up my wait list. I have 300 people on this wait list. I know they're not all going to sign up, but I probably have about 50 that will. And so letting people know that I have people waiting in the wings, chomping at the bit to get their spot creates fear. And this fear of missing out. I don't want to lose my spot to someone on the wait list. And I think that also was part of the offer, in a way, as I spoke about it, that drove people to move. All right. So I did have a different offer to my to new people that might join that starts tomorrow, but I'm not going to share that with you right now. I'll walk you through that next week when I go through those results with you in this group. Okay. All right. So getting a really terrific offer on the table, getting clear about what that is, mapping that out, brainstorming that out, and some notes is the second step. The third step, after I figured out what my offer was to set up my store. I have an online store. You need to set up the place where people are actually going to go and purchase this product so that it's ready to go when launch day hits. So in the past, I spent my first 9 years using Member Assembler, and I loved that product. I still recommend it to CSAs who are beginning. and who are kind of mid-range size. At the end of the day, I decided to leave Member is Similar, not because I didn't like the product, but because I had just advanced as a marketer and as a kind of an e-commerce mogul. And I just wanted to be able to have a tool that I didn't have to spend as much money on, number one, because I knew I could figure it out on my own, but also because I'm really big into email marketing now, digital marketing, and I wanted to have a tool that was really easy to integrate with my email service provider, ConvertKit, and with lead pages. So I build these gorgeous sales pages and landing pages, opt-in forms where people can opt in to get a freebie. And those things are things that I build inside Lead Pages, which is a software that I purchase every year for like $300. And then I have ConvertKit, which is my like superstar workhorse email service provider that I absolutely love, and it's so easy to use. And I wanted to be able to connect the two so that when someone signed up in my store, it would automatically trigger and go and communicate to ConvertKit and tag them a certain way and initiate a sales sequence and initiate a welcome email series or untag them a certain way. Like I wanted to be able to do that stuff. And I couldn't do that seamlessly with Member Similar. So I just wanted to explain why I ended up leaving that. If you're not going to, dive into all of this, then find a store that's easy for you. But I ended up deciding to use WooCommerce. I did a ton of research on e-commerce platforms. I looked at Shopify, I looked at Big Cartel, I looked at Farmigo. I looked at a lot of different options, and at the end of the day, I ended up choosing WooCommerce for one primary reason, and it's because I could create an invoice-only sales process, and it was the only one that I could find that would do that. So maybe you struggle with this too, but I really hate it when I give away 1 to 3% of my income to a software service provider. It just irks me, especially when I know I can do it myself. But in the WooCommerce platform, when I was redesigning my website last year, that was the primary reason why I ended up choosing a WordPress site, because WooCommerce comes with that for free. You just set up the store inside there, and I can just check a box inside the store that says, make this invoice only. And what that essentially does is it allows people, when they sign up, they don't have to pay with their credit card. They just sign up, and then it sends them an email confirmation, and it says, send your check to blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's what I wanted. I wanted them to send me checks. Another like random thing here, I don't know if you struggle with this too, but like we got all our income for this year, right, back in January 2nd when we cashed all our CSA checks. I don't want another $150,000 to come through on a credit card. That would be the death of me as far as income taxes go next year. So I can't accept payment until January. So this is the only way I can do it. I need an invoice-only system that allows people to post-date checks and send them to me on January 1st. I think my customers appreciate that too, actually. A lot of them don't want to have to pay a big chunk all at once right now. So for me to be able to say, hey, I don't have to cash that check for 3 more months, I think that actually causes people to sign up and come back faster, because they're like, okay, I can plan and I can get my finances in order so that I can actually have her cash that check in 3 months. So that's a lot of explanation for setting up the store, but I did choose a WooCommerce platform. I highly recommend it. It was not super difficult to learn how to do, but you do need to have a WordPress website, I think, to be able to do that. I will also say that once I'd set that up, I had 4 customers that I invited to do a practice sale. So I actually contacted them and said, hey, I need you to make sure that my store actually works. I want you to go in and purchase what you want and give me your feedback. What was complicated about the checkout process? What wasn't clear? And there were a few bugs that were discovered through that process and some feedback. Some of it I could change, some of it I couldn't, but that was really helpful. So setting up the store was step 3. And I was really nervous about it because it's the first year that I had to build my own store like that. But it only took me a couple days to really work through some of that, and I figured it out. Step 4 is to map out the dates. Map out the dates of your launch. So this is when I sit down and I know what my offer is now, and I have to decide how long do I want this pitch to last. So I recommend 14 days. I even would consider 7 days. I know that sounds so short, but you'd be surprised. 14 days of heavy duty selling is exhausting. Last year I did 3 weeks. That was way too long. I noticed that there was a big spike of interest on the front end, like this year. And then, sales kind of dribbled in until the last day. So for those 3 weeks, like for, 20 days, I was trying to keep momentum going and excitement. I was just watching the dribble come in, just a few sales at a time. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so tiring. So that's why I shortened it this year to 2 weeks. The dates that you need to worry about, I just pulled out a calendar like this. I photocopied one, and I take little Post-it notes, and I put my cart open date gets one Post-it note, and my cart close date. Okay, so cart open means that's the day that your store opens officially for sale. Cart close is when it shuts down. And then I have a Post-it note for the day that pre-launch begins. And pre-launch is usually 4 days before the cart opens, and that's when I begin to send emails out and I create hype. This pre-launch phase is super, super important, and we are going to talk more about what happens during that phase in just a minute. Okay, step 5 is to map out the content that I'm going to use in my email sales campaign. So remember, most of this pitch and this sales process is done through email. It's done to my warm audience, my CSA leads that I have been cultivating over the last year. It is also done on my Facebook business page or on my Facebook private group. So for my CSA members, I did something on my private Facebook page almost every day. Anytime I sent out an email, I would do something on my Facebook group. But starting tomorrow, when I'm pitching to my email list, I will also be posting something every day on the business page that aligns with what I'm talking about in the emails. But step 5 is just thinking through, okay, what's the content? What are my options for content to be talking about? What am I going to fill these emails with so that I move my customer closer and closer to feeling comfortable and ready to buy? Okay, some of them are going to be ready to buy on the first day, as if I do my job well in the hype phase, but not everyone will. So how do I kind of navigate that journey and coach them to that conversion? So I used last year's email sequence as a template. That's kind of the nice thing about this, is once you build this once, you don't have to work as hard the second, third, fourth year, because it's kind of already there. You have the skeleton there. And I would encourage you to watch the video training that I did on the elements of an effective email sales sequence. That is actually a killer training. It is so, so good. It comes with a worksheet you can download so you can actually fill out your own sales sequence. So it's like an hour and 15 minutes, so it's long, but it's got like every idea you could think of under the sun that you could put in an email sales sequence. So look for that in the archives as well. I'm going to be having you watch so many videos this winter. Watch out. So I have a lot of content over the last 2 years that I've created. So this was actually a pretty easy step for me, because I can just pull from things that I've made in the past and just link them up. So again, the content is dependent upon who my target audience is. So I had a very different set of things that I put in the email for current CSA members that I'm asking to renew than I do to people who are kind of brand new to the CSA concept. Okay, so some ideas, and I again would just brainstorm these. I sit down with a list. I'm like, what are some of the things? What are some of the things that I can talk about with them? So number 1, I have an entire email where I just talk about my bonus. And if I have multiple bonuses, I might do 2 emails, one for each bonus, and really flesh out why this is so valuable and what they're going to get from it. Maybe there's a picture of it that I can share. I think about what are my urgency and my scarcity plays that I brainstormed before in the offer, and I'll spend an entire email talking about one of those plays. So a whole email on the front end for my hype phase before the cart opened was all about the egg share. I created so much panic from that email alone that people were like ready on Sunday to buy. All right, so that was an entire email just about that. I sit down and brainstorm what are some of the features that I could focus on. So I plan to do an entire email all about the academy to my new CSA leads list because they don't really know the value of the Academy yet. So I'm giving them a backstage tour. I made a video that gives them a short backstage tour of what the Academy even is so they can see its value. I had created at one point a PDF download of all of the things that are in the Academy, kind of a table of contents. And so I linked that up in the email and said, hey, if you want to see what's in the Academy, I've got a 5-page document that lists every single thing that's in there. And so they can visually look at that. So I have that piece of content that I could link up and put in an email. So I just try to think about what are some of the benefits. In this case, I know the Academy is a huge value add. And so I talk a whole email just about that to try and make them go, wow, okay. Plus, what that email is going to do, it's going to alleviate one of the objections that I know some of my CSA leads have, which is, I don't know how to use the food you're growing, or I'm worried I'm going to waste the food. So I can talk about how the Academy will alleviate that fear. Okay, this kind of moves on now to objections. So I think about what are some of the objections that my customers have. I did a whole training on this last week in our video archives about knowing your customers' objections. So go back and listen to that one. But once I list out what those objections are, then I kind of look at that and say, could I write an entire email about one of these objections and tap into that? So for example, I know one of the objections my customers have is payment. How does payment work? Do I have to pay all at once? Can I break it up into more payments? In fact, I just got that email 2 days ago from somebody who was on my, who got one of the first hype emails in this pitch that's starting tomorrow. And they were like asking me about the payment question. And I wrote her back and I said, hey, I answered her question, but I said, hey, I'm going to be talking about this. So, watch your email for the answer to that. And it made me realize I need to move that particular email up earlier before I actually open the cart, because I feel like that's such a big objection to some people that they won't buy until that question is answered. So that kind of piece of feedback actually caused me to rearrange the order of my sales pitch a little bit. So knowing what your customers' objections are, and then you can kind of figure out where do I need to put those in the stream of emails that's going to go out. Other frequently asked questions. So brainstorming what your other frequently asked questions are. You might be able to create an entire email in the pitch, if it's an important enough question, around that question. I have an entire email that's just about the full offer. I mean, that's a long one, but I spell it all out and I link them to my sales page as well so they can actually go look at it on a nice, pretty page. Testimonials is another huge one that you should definitely add into your sequence. So I don't put testimonials in my pitch to my old members, but I do put it in the pitch that's coming up here to people who don't know the product very well yet, because they need that social proof. They need to know that it works for people. So I have collected a bunch of testimonials over time. I actually have created some video testimonials this season, and I plan to put those into the email copies of a couple of different emails so that they can watch those. And those will show up later on they won't be like the first or the second one, but they'll come on later on in the pitch. Defining the problem is another thing. So helping your potential customers, showing them that you understand the problem that they have, and then agitating it using your copy. So telling stories that tap into their fears or into their worries or into the reason why they weren't coming to you in the first place. And then just kind of imagine like putting lemon juice on a paper cut, right? And it's like, like you want to just rub it in so that they feel that burn, and then you're going to provide them with your solution. And then I have one entire email when the cart opens. That's all the email says. The day that the cart opens, it's like, cart's open, here's the link, buy now. And if I've done my job well in those early days before the cart opens, if I've created enough of an appetite for my product, they're just waiting for the buy now button at that point. I also have one email on the final day where all the final day email says is, this is your last day, the cart's closing, bonus goes away, and there's just kind of the urgency piece is really pushed and played there. Okay, so I'm just giving you some examples here of the types of emails that you could be crafting. So then once I have them all kind of on a giant list, I'll map them out in a right order. And I showed you this picture. This is my strategy. This is my game plan for this week. And I'll be walking you through this next week. I'll be literally telling you what I did each day of the 7 days. Actually, it's 11 days if you count the 4 days of the pre-launch on the front end. So, and I'm just writing, a small phrase that helps me know, hey, it's an email about details of pricing, or, here's one, the special bonus. So that then when it's time to sit down and actually write these emails, I know what order to put them in. Okay, so I put a lot more of these Post-it notes when I have a longer, like let's say I have a 20-day launch period, I put a lot more of the Post-it notes on the front end. So the first 4 days before the cart opens, that pre-launch period, I have an email go out every day. Absolutely. And then once the cart opens, I might then start taking a break and maybe take 2 days off and then hit them again, just so we don't have email fatigue. But if you remember, people who are interested in buying your product, they actually want to hear from you, okay? The ones who are getting tired of the email pitch, they don't want to buy, okay? And that's fine, let them fall off the radar. But the ones who are really thinking about it, they want information. They're doing research. Their logic is spinning and they're trying to justify this experience. They're looking for the social proof. And so those are the people you have to keep asking them. You have to not feel bad about continuing to email those people. Yes, there will be people who will get annoyed with the sales pitch and they will tell you or they'll unsubscribe, and that's fine because those people would not end up buying anyway. So you got to get over that. All right, so I put more things on the front end in my email sequence in that pre-launch phase. I think this causes a greater percentage of people to buy on that first day, because if you've played the urgency and the scarcity cards well, those people will get, frenzied about wanting to buy right away. And then I write the emails. So for a 14-day sequence, I wrote 8 emails. For 7 days, I wrote 1 for every day. And then I broadcast these emails each day of the launch period. So I don't send them out. It's not an automatic drip campaign that triggers automatically. Like I literally go every morning and I find the email that I've pre-written. I modify it a little bit. I put it into a broadcast email in ConvertKit. And I tag, I have my segmented audience of who I know I want to send it to, and I send it every morning. So I'm going to have to do that after this video right now and go take care of that for today. Okay, that was step 5. Step 6 is actually a pretty quick one. Step 6 was setting up the Zap and integrations. And if you're like, what the hell is a Zap? Then you need to go to Zapier.com and just check them out. Zapier.com is an online tool that helps integrate apps, connect apps together. So I purchased, it's actually free. I think you get 10 Zaps for free at the beginning, but I actually now I purchased the app for my WooCommerce site, or the plugin, I should say. But here's what I use Zap for. I have ConvertKit and WooCommerce talking together. So I went into Zapier and I said, whenever a new order is placed inside WooCommerce, I want you to tag that customer as CSA 2019. This happens automatically behind the scenes without me doing anything. Now I have to put the Zapier plugin into my website, and I have to tell Zapier on their website how I have to set up that Zap. But that's essentially what happens. And so it becomes an automated thing. And I love this. You can do so many other things with Zap, but that's the one thing that I did. Then I went into ConvertKit, my email service provider, and I told ConvertKit, I created a rule in the automation section. It said, if somebody gets the CSA 2019 tag added, for example, by Zapier, then remove the CSA lead tag from this account. That will then remove them from any further pitches, so they won't continue to get those sales pitches for the rest of the promotional period. I can also say things like, once the CSA 2019 tag is added, start them on my pre-written welcome email series, okay, which I'll talk about in step 10. So this is a really quick step to do, but I set up my integrations inside of Zapier and made sure that my customers who then buy from WooCommerce through my store will automatically get tagged a certain way inside my email service provider, and it'll just start forming my list for next season. All right, step 7 is that I sit down and I think through my Facebook group posts. So it's not enough for me to just write emails, because not everybody opens emails. You know that, right? A lot of my customers, though, are going to especially my current members, do check in my private Facebook group quite a lot. And I have sort of learned that I have to put the same information in there as I do in my emails, because some of them never check their emails. So during my launch the last 2 weeks, whenever I wrote an email out to people, I would literally almost copy and paste that email content and put it into a post and find a picture that went along with it and stick it up there. I will be doing a very similar thing starting tomorrow. Actually, it's already starting now because I'm doing kind of the hype phase. But on my business page, I'm creating content for people out there, and my call to action is always, to wait list. This is what you need to do. Go to this website and sign up here. All right, so I don't always have a super great idea of what those posts are going to be, but again, I look at my Post-it notes, what's going to be the email for that day, and then that usually is what triggers the Facebook post. So I will kind of look at that and lean into that for ideas. All right, step number 8. I write my welcome email series. Okay, so what is the welcome email series? This is the 3 emails that get dripped out to a customer after they have purchased. So I feel like this is an important thing to do. It doesn't take that long, but when someone buys, they want to know that they're looking for their confirmation email, right? Did the order go through? And then they want to know what's next. This is especially important for brand new people. You don't want them to just buy and then they never hear from you for, a year or, 6 months until you start the box. So I created a 3-part email series that drips out over the course, I think, of 5 days. And the very first one goes out immediately after they've been tagged as a 2019 CSA member inside of ConvertKit. And remember, that happened because of the Zapier app. So step 1, the first email is step 1, here's what I want you to do. And it's a video. In our case, it was a video of Farmer Kurt doing his happy dance, and it was just saying thank you for buying. And then I said, P.S., don't forget to send in your money. And then I showed them exactly where to send their money. Okay, step 2 is, in the second email, is what do I want them to do next? Okay, so I'm thinking through as I craft these emails, like what are the next steps for my customers so that they get orienteered into my tribe as soon as possible. So step 2 was, here's how you have to join the academy. I want you to start benefiting from these features of your membership. Or, here's our Facebook group link. If you're not in our Facebook group already, here's how you join. And I specifically walk them through how to go about doing that, and I give them the link. And I tell them, click on the link to join our Facebook group. So this particular welcome series is not as important, again, for my current members, because many of them are already in that. But for brand new people who are just joining, this is going to be very, very important, because they need to be shown the path. They need you to be very specific about do this next, then do this, then do this. And that's going to make them really feel welcomed. And it's going to, that initial experience of your brand is going to make them feel well taken care of. And it may even cause them to be more excited about when the process begins. Okay? Step 9 was to create a sales page. I think this is an optional step, but I do always create a really fancy, schmancy looking sales page using a tool called Lead Pages. If you'd like to go see what the sales page looks like, you can go to sharedlegacyfarms.com/offer, and I modify this page depending on what the offer is. So the current offer that's there is not what was there 8 days ago. But it's now the new offer that my members will start seeing tomorrow, or hopefully my new members, people that will hopefully sign up, are going to be taken to that page. What I like about sales pages is that it's different than a website page, because there's only one thing to do on the sales page, and that is to click the Buy Now button. There aren't any back buttons. There aren't other menu options like there are on a website that might distract someone. They're like, oh, let me check what this page says. No, all there is on a sales page is information about the product and these buy now buttons that keep showing up. So it's very clear what the one thing is that they can do. They can either buy now or they can X out of the page. So that is where I try to put all of my content for my entire offer, And that's worked really well for me. Okay, I'm almost done. You guys have been great. That was step 9. That's the last step? That's the last step. There weren't 10 steps, there were 9. Okay, so that's the last step. I want to talk about some common mistakes that I see people making and the mistakes that I made before I began this process. I've mentioned a few of them already, but I'm going to buzz through this list. Common mistakes in early bird campaigns. Number 1, not being clear about your offer. So not writing it all down, not thinking through all the different elements, all the different features, all the different things that add value to your members. You know, people just think, oh, it's a box of vegetables that you're going to get and a newsletter and some farm events. But think about other things like, are you certified? Like, are you going to be at the pickup to shake their hand every week? Like that should probably go in your offer, because that's one of the reasons people sign up. They want to connect with a farmer. So not being really clear about what your offer is and not articulating it well so that people come to your website and they're just not sure, what is it that I'm getting? Kind of along the same lines as not having a good offer to begin with. So if you don't take the time to craft an offer that's going to motivate someone to buy now, you know, that may be part of the problem. Another common mistake is not creating any kind of urgency, not giving people a reason to buy now, not having a motivating bonus, not having a deadline that goes away. Not creating scarcity is the third mistake that I see a lot of people making. I used to make this too. You need to give them a reason to buy now. Find something that's going to go away, something that's scarce, that there's not a lot of, that's very valuable, and that will motivate people to wait at the computer until your store opens and crash the server of your website, okay? Another mistake, not holding the line with the deadline. So people being like, oh, well, can I still get the offer after the deadline passes? No, it goes away. You can do this again. You can make another launch like this in January if you want. But I feel like the best thing that you can do is just hold people to that offer. And if they miss it, they miss it. And just say, well, there's going to be a different offer in a few months. And you can try and get that one. Trying to sell to a cold audience is another common mistake that I see CSA farmers making. I'm not saying they're out there, they're in your traffic, but don't talk to them. That's not who you're trying to convince right now, because you're not going to convince the majority of them. You're talking to people who have been following you on Facebook for a while, who are on your email list, who have purchased from you in the past, who are warm to your product, who like you, who know, like, and trust you. And those are the people that you're trying to speak to. So I want you to imagine that you're sitting down for coffee with one of those people and you're trying to talk about your product with them. And that's how you write your emails. That's how you think through your strategy of what you're trying to tell them, okay? Don't try to talk to someone who is brand new and knows nothing about you. Selling too long, so having the sales pitch period be too long. Like I said, a 3-week launch was too long for me, but I know that there's some farmers that just have that the same offer is there for 4 months. And so I would really challenge you to think about, I have my store open all year long too. It's not like I close it. People can come in January and enjoy my CSA, but the offer isn't there. It's just the very basic box offer. None of the bonuses are there. None of that other element is there anymore. So it's only a couple of times a year that I craft a very specific offer that's trying to motivate people to buy now. And I think that really helps. If you are selling all the time, then that gets exhausting to people. And there's really no reason for someone to do it right away. Skipping the pre-launch phase or not really fully understanding the power of hype. The pre-launch phase is so important. I'm in the middle of it right now for my CSA leads list, and I can feel the energy it's creating. So those 4 emails that you're sending out before you open the cart are so valuable. Choose them wisely. Choose what you talk about wisely in those 4 days, because that's what's creating the I can't wait to buy, I can't wait till she opens the store, and that's what's going to get them in there on day 1 and get you that majority of the sales. And then finally, letting our fear of being salesy keep us from asking for the sale. Like I said, I only hardcore sell 2 times a year. I do it now, and then if I have to, I'll do it again in April, May. And so I feel like because I don't do it that often, people give me permission to be unabashedly salesy for 2 weeks, or in this case, a week. And I don't get a lot of grief about it. If people want to unsubscribe, then they're not my avatar, and I'm okay with that. But I've earned the right to be salesy twice a year, hardcore, and pitch with a really great offer, okay? So if you have a really great offer and you only do it a few times a year, there's no reason to be afraid to be salesy. You are, after all, a salesperson. You do need to sell your product, and the only way you're going to do that is if you ask people to actually buy it, okay? And then just not doing the work on the front end to warm up your audience. So the reason this is working for us isn't just because of this superstar formula I'm sharing with you. There are a lot of other tools in my toolkit for sure, right? And I've been doing the work all season long of writing an email to them, of teaching them something every week, of trying to add value and get them to know, like, and trust me. So I'm creating a warm audience, which is why when I pitch to a warm audience, many of them will say yes. And so if you're not kind of putting that into your machine, you won't have the same kind of results. So, all right, that's kind of the end of my training today. Next week, I plan to share the email sales map that I used for the current launch that I'm doing right now for my leads list and my wait list. So I'll kind of share with you specifically what I talked about, the order of the emails, the content of the emails. If I get my act together, I'll even share the swipe file of the emails themselves so you can download them and see them and use them as a template. And I'll share my results with you as well. Thanks for joining me. And if you are watching this on YouTube, if you made it all the way to the end, you're watching this somewhere else and you want to get inside the Facebook group where I do these videos every week, then you can go to sharedlegacyfarms.com/DF That stands for Digital Farmer Lab. And you'll be able to subscribe, and that will show you where the Facebook group link is. Okay? Thanks so guys for joining me. Thanks so much for joining me. I will catch you next week, and good luck building your own early bird sales campaign. Even if you just take a couple of these ideas and try to implement them, I think it'll go a long way. Take care, guys. Bye.